Hello, I welcome you to the Dr. Kabani. This is 2025. I want to believe that you have set your goals, your dreams are high, you are burning with enthusiasm. As we are right in the first month of the year, it is a year where people will be battling with aspiration, goals, resolutions, and limits. And it is always a good thing to be in that mode. But how do you move yourself from where you were last year to where you think you should be for this year? How do you move yourself from where you were a decade ago to where you think you should be? Now, the art of personal development is a very intricate and complex art, which every one of us is struggling, striving, and wrestling with to get to the point that you can actually master. I am hoping that through this podcast, you are going to introduce yourself and your loved ones to a platform where you can begin to get material, content, and skills that will help you to develop yourself in the journey of self-actualization. And that is why opening the seasons and episodes that we're going to have on this podcast, we want to look at one of the issues that is very fundamental to personal development, and that is friendship. What are the effects of friendship on personal development? One thing we quickly realize is that just like animals that move in packs, and some of them in herds, and some of them in whatever way you may define the groupings of animals, human beings also seem to move in groups of friendship towards the many different things that human beings do. Oftentimes, you're going to find that those that are in self-destructive mode are actually in a group. And those that are succeeding and progressing are equally in a group. How do people find themselves in either groups of destruction or groups of progress? You want to know that because I should mention that succeeding is never by accident. It is always a deliberate effort. And if human beings fail in groups and succeed in groups, you then want to know how you can actively find yourself in a group that will get you to the top. So today we will dissect the subject of how friendship affects personal success. And I want to begin by citing just some scriptures for you. One of them being 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 53. Which interestingly, in one of the versions, has this to say. Let's begin with King James Version, which a good number of you might be using. It says, do not be deceived, evil companions corrupt good morals. Don't be deceived, evil companions corrupt good morals. However, I came across a very interesting translation, which I love. And this is actually the Good News Version, which has this to say, don't let anyone deceive you. Association with bad people will ruin decent people. Don't let anyone deceive you. Association with bad people will ruin decent people. Another scripture I want to read for you is actually Proverbs chapter 13, verse 20. Proverbs 13, verse 20 has this to say, keep company with the wise, and you will become wise. If you make friends with stupid people, you will be ruined. Keep company with wise people, and you will become wise. If you make friends with stupid people, you will be ruined. Now, you can pick it right from there. Now, I should mention that there is quite a mammoth amount of scriptures that talk about friendships and the effect of friendship on your personal progress, the effect of friendship on your spiritual life, the effect of friendship on your morality. But these two suffice for now to indicate how friendship has an effect on your personal achievements, how friendship has an effect ultimately on what your life becomes. Now, I should mention that oftentimes when we discuss about friendship, we tend to think this is a subject of teenagers. This is a subject of people that are still trying to find their way around. I should mention that nothing can be further from the truth than that way of thinking. Never ever operate under the presupposition that pressure, peer pressure, and influence is limited to the early years of life, teenagerhood, and young adults. No. Friendship has an effect that is independent to your age in life. The young are influenced, so are the middle-aged, and so are the elderly people. The quality of friends that you have, your association, the circle that you keep, determines what you are able to do and what you fail to do in this life. As you will soon realize that there's actually no person that was great that did not have a circle of companions and comrades around him or her that influenced who they became and what they did in this life. So the Bible cautions. I want to bring out one simple principle that has helped me in life and which I hope will help. And this is that I always keep in majority those I want to be like. So in every circle of friends that I did, those who are in the majority are those that I want to be like. So I identify virtues, I identify attitudes, behavior, and habits that I would want to adopt, because it is these things that shape what you become in life. And once I've identified individuals that possess them, then I befriend these individuals. And therefore, me who lacks these things are often in the minority. Because the principle of Proverbs chapter 13, verse 20 is that what you want to become like must be in the majority. That is how you become like that. It says, keep the company with the wise, and you will become wise. So you are in the minority, the wise are in the majority, you become like the majority. Then it says, if you make friends with stupid people, you will be ruined. When the stupid people, other versions use the word fools. When the fools are in majority and the wise are in minority, the wise become like the fools. Let me give practical examples probably in life of how this looks like. And I'm going to drive lessons from the friendship and association of two great guys. Before I expose who they are, let me give a little bio about their friendship. Some of you that are well read, you'll be able to pick who these guys are. So one of them is the one that actually gave us the life. Of course, when you read, you're going to realize that it is not him literally that came to discover the light bulb, but he made it feasible and practical. So he's often accredited to be the man behind the light bulb. So today you have light in form of electricity and the bulbs that we're using in our homes. Of course, now you have the fluorescent tubes, the LEDs, and many other types of light. But the man who gave us this is one man. Beyond that, he's the one that made electricity feasible in its distribution, that today it is one of the biggest sources of energy across the world. Okay? If you're using electricity around, you may want to thank this man. Of course, there were many other people that contributed to issues of electricity. You know such scientists as Timeza and many others. But this is the guy that came up with the concept of distribution of electricity as he set up the first power station in New York many years ago in the 1800s. This guy was a great inventor, to the fact that actually to his name he had a total number of 1,097 patents to his name. 1,093 patents to his name. So he discovered a lot of stuff. He invented a lot of stuff. Beyond electricity and the bulb, he did many other things. Today you are able to use your phones. Now you know that it is Alexander Graham who came up with the concept of a phone. But this was improved to become much of a reality by the same guy as he worked around what came to be known as the phonograph, okay, in 1877. So 1877, he works on what is called the sonograph, which has given birth to the phones actually that we are using today, because this was a machine that could be able to record and reproduce sound. So if today we are able to record sound just as we are using on this podcast, we thank this guy for the work that he did. Beyond that, he contributed heavily to motion picture. And that is why today we can use cameras. You are able to see me. Well, kudos and thanks to this guy, because this was his work in 1891 in what came to be known as the kinetoscope. It was his invention. And today we can use video cameras. You have a video camera on your phone. You can take videos and motion pictures. We thank him. He impacted communication. Your phones are dead because he came up with a technology called carbon microphone, which is partly the technology that is being used in the phones and microphones and the telecommunication space as of today. So you know that therefore you can't remove this man from your life. Because your life as you know it today and the technology you are using, much of it can be credited to this guy. Who is he? The man is a genius. His name, Thomas Edison. So those of you that love to read, you'd have come across this guy called Thomas Edison. A great guy. And you know, he is the one who actually came up with one famous quote which says, genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. Was just speaking to the fact that if you are going to be called a genius, it should be because you are working very hard. And you know, we're living in a time now that many young people want to convince themselves that they don't need to work hard. All they need to do is to work smart. But I should mention that geniuses like Thomas Edison, who could be able to come up with inventions in excess of 1,000, speaks and he says, genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. Is speaking to the principle of working very, very hard. Now, when you think of such a person, you are tempted to think that he was a genius that worked all alone, that had a gifted mind, came up with inventions and all that. But that would be very far from the truth. As you see, he had friends that inspired him and that he worked. So I want to introduce you to another powerful guy who happened to be a friend to the first guy. His name, Henry Ford. So some of you know of the Ford company, and even up to today, you know of the Ford cars. This part of the world, we actually look at Ford cars as luxury vehicles. So if somebody is going to tell you that they are driving a Ford Ranger, you are literally blown away. And when you look at this masterpiece of engineering, the Ford fleet of cars, well, there's a man behind them. His name, Henry Ford. And this guy, Henry Ford, made equally many inventions that have revolutionized how society operates. Your life has been impacted by Ford. You see, the commercialization of automobiles, the cars, such that today you might even own a car, might find yourself on a bus or in a taxi, you must thank Henry Ford, because it is Henry Ford that actually made the ownership of cars possible to a common person. And how he did this is because, of course, he founded the Ford Motor Company in 1903. He developed what came to be called as the Model T car in 1908. And it is this model of a car that demonstrated that it is possible to make cars affordable for a common person to be able to own one. And we saw that over 15 million models of these cars were sold in 1927. And this opened up the owning of cars to every person. Today, you and me may own cars. We thank Ford. He pioneered the assembly line production of cars, which did not only limit itself to actually cars, went on in many other aspects of manufacturing. Today, different manufacturers are using, assembly line production. And it is Ford who did this. And you see, he brought efficiency to the manufacturing of cars because when he came up with the concept of assembly line, he reduced the manufacturing of a car from 12 hours to 90 minutes. So the process that used to take 12 hours to manufacture a car ended up in 90 minutes, thereby dramatically lowering the cost and increasing production efficiency. So Ford was a great guy. Actually, because of his concepts of manufacturing and production, we know too well that an ideology arose which was called Fordism. So Fordism became a way of doing things very efficiently. Henry Ford contributed to aviation in his ways and technology of doing things. And today, Henry Ford is a name that has been immortalized. Not only Henry Ford, as we have seen, Thomas Edison is another name that is immortalized. Did you know that these two guys were the best of friends? Yes, they were friends. Today, young people call each other buddies. You may call these guys that. They actually met in New York in 1896 at a conference. And as they met, that time Henry Ford was just a young engineer. Now, Thomas Edison was born in 1847. And later on, Henry Ford was much younger, born in the 60s, 1860s. But they became friends as they actually had met in 1896 at a conference. They became so close that they often discussed their ideas of what they wanted to do. They traveled together. They had camping vacations together and ultimately settled together as neighbors in Florida. This is a powerful friendship that produced two men who each in their own line of what they were doing revolutionized things and changed the world. What can we learn from such friendships for ourselves now? There are lessons I want you to pick very quickly. And I hope that you're going to implement them in the year 2025 going forward. In how you choose friends, how you develop friendship, and how friendship will impact your life ultimately. Many of us only befriend people that appears to us in terms of age. When you look at the friendship of Henry Ford and Thomas Edison, you realize that friendship does not need to be based on age. These are two people who were separated by almost a 20 years gap in age and yet became friends for the simple reason that they shared aspirations. Friendship should not only be based on age. Actually, age should not be a factor in friendship. As long as you share aspirations, as long as you share ideas, ideologies, principles of life, you can be friends. Henry Ford and Thomas Edison, separated by 20 years plus gap in their age, became the best of friends and literally turned the world upside down because they had more in common in their heads than they did in their years. So friendship does not need to be based on age. Secondly, friendship does not need to be based on ethnic extraction. It does not need to be based on demographic extraction. Sometimes it may not need to be based on religious extraction. Okay? Because you realize that Henry Ford, when they meet with his friend Thomas Edison, they literally come from two different states. Now, I know that in the United States of America, this may not seem much, but if you look at geographical comparisons, you know that each state of America, or each state in the United States of America, its equivalent in places like Africa, Europe, and others would actually be a different country. That's how vast the United States of America is. So you want to think of Henry Ford and Thomas Edison as guys that are coming from two different countries that became friends, irrespective of them coming from two different states. Many of us befriend people by geographical factors, saying we come from the same province, we come from the same country. But I want you to know that the world has reached a point of globalization where we are a global village, one entity. Nothing stops you from befriending people in Nigeria while you are in Argentina, or having friends in Mali while you are in South Africa, having friends in India while you are in Zambia, or friends in Australia while you are in Canada. The world has globalized. It has become a global village. So do not limit yourself to people that you share geographical extraction with. Because some of the things you need to succeed in this life and to progress might sit in a geographical location thousands of miles, thousands of kilometers from where you were born and where you live. In an era now of the Internet of Things, where we have got social media platforms and ways of engaging beyond geographical limitations, I don't see why you should be limited to only have friends that you can physically see and physically interact with. Harness the power of technology in it removing the geographical cap on who you can socialize to get in a space where you can socialize and befriend anyone from anywhere that shares aspiration, ideologies, philosophy of life with you. Leverage friendship by befriending people from anywhere and across the world. You see, I actually love the philosophy that one of these two guys that we just talked about actually had. And this is Henry Ford. This was his philosophy. He says coming together is a beginning. Keeping together is progress. Working together is success. Coming together is a beginning. Keeping together is progress. Working together is success. I've often realized that some of us have not yet realized the power of friendship. Getting people that are like-minded to join you in your vision, in your dream, in your goals of life. So we end up in a one-man show, trying very hard, working very hard, pushing very hard. God is ultimately wise. He made us interdependent. Your resources as an individual are limited. When I'm talking about resources, you can name it. It can be financial resources, human resource. It can be whatever form of resource you want to look at. As an individual, it is limited. But immediately you begin to bring friends in your circle, other human beings. You then begin to bring resources to your circle. And Henry Ford puts it there for very well. He says, coming together is the beginning. Keeping together is progress. But working together is success. Find people that you can come together with. Find individuals that you can keep together. But above all, find individuals that you can work with. Now, this applies to an upcoming entrepreneur. You need to find people that you can come together with, keep together with, and work together with if you are going to succeed as an entrepreneur. This goes to a young person that is building their talent. You can't become an A-rated talent guy, a musician, an actor, a comedian, name it, a sports person. You can't. Until you find people you can come together, people you can keep together with, and that you can work together. That is the only remedy. That's the secret. And the good news is that the secret is out of the bag. That is the secret to success. You need a team. Those of you that have read books by Napoleon Hill, you will come across this concept. He writes it in one of his books and he calls it the mastermind. That every person needs to have a mastermind, a group of people that think the way you think, a group of people that are resourceful, that are intelligent, that can actually contribute to your dream. That's very important. I can give you 1,000 examples of people in history that worked together. I've only given you Thomas Edison and Henry Ford that worked together to achieve greatness. But those of you that have followed men like Martin Luther King, you know that he had a close friend by the name of Ralph Abel that actually he worked together with. And Ralph contributed so much to the achievements of Martin Luther King in his civil rights movement activism. And Martin Luther King equally contributed very well and very much to Ralph. In the world of technology and business, many of us celebrate Steve Jobs, and you know him for what he did with his company, Apple. But you know that there was not one Steve. There was Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. And Steve Wozniak, actually, many people have come to agree that he was the brilliance behind Apple from the technical side because he was a technical hands-on guy. And Steve Jobs was the genius behind the brand, the marketing, and the sales, because that is where he was strong. And the two coming together gave us Apple company and gave us Apple One and Apple Two computers that literally revolutionized technology. And the world of computers, as we know, in the world of activism, you know the friendship of Mahatma Gandhi and Helen Kellenbach. Mahatma Gandhi and Helen Kellenbach, the two actually became friends. They met in South Africa in the 1900s. And when they met there was mutual growth because Kellenbach became a close confidant of Mahatma Gandhi, supporting him very much in everything that he did. And Mahatma Gandhi equally supported Kellenbach in what he was doing. When we come to home, Africa, if I mention the name Nelson Mandela, everybody knows him across the world. But perhaps if you love to read, especially on the history of the decolonization of Africa and issues around the apartheid, you have come across another name in the person of Walter Sisulu. Now you know that Nelson Mandela and Walter Sisulu were so much close friends to the extent that even the ANC, which is the party on which Nelson Mandela rode on to presidency after his 27 years incarceration on Robben Island, you actually know that the guy who introduced Nelson Mandela to the ANC is Walter Sisulu. So Sisulu was an experienced activist. He's the one who introduced Nelson Mandela to ANC. In other words, without Walter Sisulu, we would not have the Nelson Mandela that we know. And Nelson Mandela's leadership of charisma actually amplified the works that Walter Sisulu also was doing. So the two impacted each other. Another great example is that of Kwame Nkrumah with George Padmore. So Nelson Mandela and George Padmore meet in London during their studies. And as they meet in London during their studies, they become friends. And what we get to see is mutual growth because it is Padmore that mentored Kwame Nkrumah to become the Pan-Africanist that he was. Later on to see the liberation and decolonization of Ghana becoming a free independent state. The ideologies of Pan-Africanism that Kwame Nkrumah actually was pushing for were highly influenced by Padmore. And we know that equally Padmore was influenced by Kwame Nkrumah. It is this friendship that later on led to the birth of the organization called the African Union that we know today. Another great friendship is the friendship of Julius Nyerere and our first Republican president, Kenneth Kaunda. These two guys became friends. And we see mutual growth on the two. Both of them ending up as heads of states. Okay? While they were still fighting for independence, they were friends and they ended up becoming founding fathers of these two great countries. And you can see what they did It is friendship. Then we know of the friendship of Patrice Lumumba and Joseph Okito. Patrice Lumumba and Joseph Okito, two great guys. They bonded during their time in the Congolese national movement when they were fighting for the liberation of Congo, what we now call Congo DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo. Okay? Lumumba's speeches and leadership inspired Okito into activism. But we also know that it is the visionary nature of Okito that supported Lumumba until actually Lumumba becomes president. Unfortunately, both of them were assassinated in 1961. But we see what these great men did by their friendship. Or another friendship I love is that of Desmond Tutu and Alan Bosak. Now, you know that Desmond Tutu is one of the first two people, him and Lituli, to receive the Nobel Prize in actually South Africa. At some point, these guys are great. All of them live in one street, including Nelson Mandela. 3 Nobel Prizes. And this happens nowhere in the world where 3 Nobel Prize winners stayed in one street. So that is one great thing about South Africa. Desmond Tutu was known as a peacemaker. He's celebrated across the world, received his Nobel Peace Prize in 1984. And he so much brought about reconciliation in South Africa. We know that the apartheid regime left, an aftertaste of bitterness between the black South Africans and the white South Africans, which, if no one had come in as a peacemaker, what we would have seen is a bloodbath in South Africa. When they actually came out of their apartheid, we would have seen a bloodbath. One of the people that was critical to reconciliation is Desmond Tutu, an archbishop in the Anglican church. This great man brought in truth and reconciliation. And he had a non-violent stance towards his fight against apartheid. He believed that it is possible to fight apartheid without becoming violent. And hence we see him being rewarded the Nobel Peace Prize. And he is a figure now of reconciliation wherever there is strife and battles across the world. This great guy, Desmond Tutu, befriended a guy by the name of Alan Bosak. And it is this friendship that actually shaped Tutu. Tutu's moral authority as a cleric amplified Bosiak's activism. But Bosiak was a master of grassroots mobilization, and he taught Tutu how to do this. And the two of them impacted each other's work to what we see as a democratic and free South Africa. The examples are endless of how people have teamed up together as friends to achieve much. If you go in the Bible, you see the friendship of Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who were just young people. When they actually entered the service of King Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon around 605 BC, these were just young guys. They were teenagers. But they had a solid friendship that saw them at a very young age, in their early 20s, becoming ministers in one of the most powerful civilizations of that time. And up to today, we still talk about the 4 equal worlds. It is a testament to the power of solid friendship that is based on proper life ideology, aspiration, and goals. We see what they did. We know of the friendship of Jonathan and David, and how Jonathan saved David. David would be a dead boy. He would have never actually ascended to the throne of Israel. What saved him was the friendship he had with Jonathan. We can see the friendship of Jesus and his disciples, and what that actually did and birthed the religion of Christianity, which today has in excess of 2 billion people, from a friendship of 12 people. And even there, Jesus even had his own inner circle again of very close people to him. Okay? Now that's the power of friendship. So the least cannot be exhausted. That speaks to the power of friendship. What friends can do. The downfall of many people has been by their friends. But the opposite is true. Their ascendance to power, to authority, to actualization of many people has been by friendship. So for today, I want to wind up with 5 things I want you to learn about friendship. Lesson number 1 is that you attract what you are. In case you are wondering why you always have friends that have landed in problems, you're wondering why you have always had bad friends. And I've often met especially young people who seem to be, in shock as to how they have ended up with the caliber of friends that they have. And some often ask and say, how do I find myself in an upgraded circle of friends? I want you to know that you attract what you are. While in the laws of science, opposites attract. In the laws of human interaction, like attract. So do not be shocked that you have referrals for friends. It often, unfortunately, I'm a messenger of doom in that respect. That if you have referrals for friends, it is because you have proven yourself to be one. Because in the laws of human sociology, like attract. If referrals are attracted to you, it is because you are a referral. If fools are attracted to you, unfortunately, I have to announce that you are one. If wise people are attracted to you, it's because you are wise. If kind people are attracted to you, it's because you are kind. If reasonable people are attracted to you, it is because you are reasonable. Now, the Bible in Amos has an interesting way of putting it. It says two cannot work together unless they agree. It speaks to the same law of human attraction, that you attract what you are. Therefore, if you want to begin seeing high caliber friends attracted to you, wanting to associate with you, you need to up your game and turn yourself into a high caliber individual. If you can turn yourself into a high caliber individual, it is just a matter of time before you begin to see high caliber individuals attracted. Become an entrepreneur and soon entrepreneurs will be attracted. Become very professional at your work and soon people that are professional will be attracted. Become excellent and people that are excellent will be attracted. And there are people that try to force friendship. I should tell you that you can't force friendship. You can't. No matter how much you want to be a friend of the excellent, if you are not, they will be repelled by your mediocrity. Lesson number 2. The quality of your friends is a reflection of who you are. It still speaks to the first one, which says you attract what you are. But the second one says the quality of your friends is a reflection of who you are. So you know the common adage that says, show me your friends, I'll tell you who you are. Do not be labored to explain to us that you are kind. Do not be labored to explain to us that you are intelligent. Show us your friends and they will wind the debate. The quality of your friends is a reflection of who you are. That should sound an alarm to you. That you need to be very careful because those that understand this principle will therefore judge you by your friends. I should mention that there are some of you young ladies who do not know that the young men that want to marry you are judging you by your friends. And you are wondering why the young men seem not to be interested in you. It's the caliber of friends you keep. There are some of you that should have been promoted a long time ago had it not been for the caliber of friends you keep. Now, there are some of you that should have been able to close very big deals in business had it not been for the caliber of friends that you keep. The caliber of friends that you keep, the quality of your friends is a reflection of who you are. So those that understand this law will therefore judge by the friends you keep. I should mention that lesson number 3 is that your friends determine the level of access you have to resources. Your friends determine the level of access you have to resources. Of friendship brings with it resources. There are circles which, when you get in, the friends are able to allow access to money. So, how much access you have right now, financial access, is determined by the kind of friends you have. How much resource you have in terms of information and knowledge is determined by the friends you have. I should also mention that how much access you have in terms of human resource is determined by the friends you keep. There are some of you, the circle of friends that you have cannot allow you access to the present. Because no one in your circle has access to the present. There are some of you who the circle of friends you have cannot allow you access to men that are in the corridors of power. I'm talking about ministers, permanent secretaries, directors. In your circle of friends, nobody has a number of a director. Nobody has a number of a PS. Nobody has a number of a minister. How then do you expect to have access to power, access to decision makers, access to men that determine destinies? When in your circle of friends, nobody has this. Now, those of you who love to read your Bibles, if you're going to go and read the story of Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, you would know that at a certain point, actually, it is Daniel that brought Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into the circles of power for them to be appointed as ministers. They had a friend, Daniel. You should know that the movement of Joseph from the prison to the palace was because Joseph befriended a guy who was working in the palace. Some of you have an affinity for friends that have no influence, friends that have no resources, people that do not, wield any power and authority. Joseph is strategic. When he is in prison, he would have befriended the armed robbers. But the armed robbers in that prison. Joseph would have befriended the, molesters. Because I want to believe that in that prison, there were molesters there. He would have befriended mothers that were in there, and thieves that were in there. But you see, the guy always has a test for quality. So when he is in prison, instead of befriending the, fraudsters, the mothers, the molesters, the bank robbers, and everybody else, in that prison, Joseph decides to befriend the guys who came from State House. He befriends the guys who work for the president. Because he knows what these guys, I have so much to learn from them. If I am released from this prison, I would have known how to run a country. Let me befriend them. But in an event that any one of them is released from prison, then I have a friend in the highest office in the land, which is State House. And that's exactly what happened. When one of those guys is released, Joseph says, when you are released, you remember. And when he's now in State House, a crisis arises. And the guy remembers Joseph. That is how Joseph is moved out of his quagmire, out of prison, into the palace. My question is, what are the places that your friends are operating in? Even if they mention your name in those places, does anything change in your life? Or everything remains the same? So your friends determine your level of access. Some of you are looking for money. Change your friends. Find friends that will allow access. Your friends determine your world. That is lesson number 4. How you view the world. And by the way, how you view the world determines what you get out of the world. Your beliefs about the world and its operation. How well you know the systems that run this world. There are systems. Religious systems. Financial systems. Economic systems that actually run the world. And I should tell you that the men and women that run this world are men and women that have understood these systems, that have knowledge of these systems, that can adapt within these systems, that can manipulate these systems. But your world view is determined by the people you keep around yourself. Do not have for friends men and women that are ignorant of these systems, that are ignorant of financial systems, economic systems, political systems. They are ignorant of this. You will become food on the table. Befriend men and women that understand these systems, that know how you can leverage these systems. That is very, very important. And lastly, your friends determine your reputation. Your friends determine your reputation. Your reputation determines your credit, your credibility. Your credibility determines your access. So right now, whoever you are hanging is either denting your reputation or building your reputation. And the reputation that you're going to have will actually determine your access. Because institutions give people access based on their reputation. Human beings give people access based on their reputation. And the reputation, therefore, that you are building will determine where you are allowed access. Whether it is jobs, your reputation will affect. In business negotiation and deals and growth, your reputation will affect you. In social issues of who you marry and who accepts you, your reputation will affect you. And that is why you must be careful and guard your reputation very jealous. But your reputation is derived from the circle that you keep. I hope that as you are stepping into 2025, you're going to be wise enough to determine the circles. If we derive an example from Jesus Christ as unwinded, we see Tembepayo, one renowned young African, drawing a lesson from the life of Jesus Christ, talking on the issue of friendship. And that is that Jesus Christ had disciples in different grades. You know that he had the 70 plus disciples that he sent out in the city. But away from the 70 plus disciples, he had the 12 that were very close to him, that he would sit with and discuss with and tell the plans of what he wants to do. But then he had the 3 that were the inner circle. These are the ones that he allowed even for them to see him in his vulnerable state. These are the ones that he brought close and asked for them to pray for him. Some of us in here, you only have the 70. You don't have the 12 and the 3. And that's why life is like a wave. You are up and down, up and down. You don't have the 12 and the 3. Or some of you disclose to the 70 that which belongs to the 3, who are the inner circle. You are sharing with the 70. You are sharing on Facebook. I've seen people share information on Facebook and social media, which clearly that information belongs to the 12. I've seen people share on social media information that belongs to the 3. And you wonder why your plans are getting jeopardized. So as you're getting into 2020, determine who the 70 are. The people that, yes, understand what you are doing at a general level and you can work with them. But determine the 12 that are close with, who move with you every day, that you are able to strategize with and do things. But determine the 3. And these must be powerful. When you look at the 3 close disciples to Jesus Christ, these were powerful guys that were able to encourage him in his moment of being vulnerable, in his moments that we can say he was at his weakest. They were there for him. They must be wise. They should be able to counsel you. They should be able to stand with you. You need friends because your friends will determine your personal growth. Friends will determine how quickly you get to your goals and you. So I'll remind you again what Proverbs and what Paul speaks to us. Do not be deceived. Evil companions corrupt good morals. And well, Solomon tells us in Proverbs And he that walks with the wise will become wise, but a companion of fools is going to be destroyed. In 2025 and beyond, I hope you can pick for yourself wise companions. I'm going to see you in the next episode. Remember, this is Dr. Kabani speaking to you on this podcast, and we are going to be meeting here twice every month to strategize on how you can make your life work. See you at the top, and I'll see you in the next episode. God bless you. Bye.